So we would like to welcome Dr. Amit.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible?
We welcome you, sir, and we have 10 minutes. So kindly try to wind up in between.
I will try my best. Thank you. So please let me know if you are able to see my slides. Uh, so my topic for the day is, artificial intelligence. I want to give a heads up to the students because, and I'm trying to give you an industry perspective of, what kind of jobs are available, and when a fresher comes out of the college, what are the possible streams in AI, and I try to build slightly on the points brought up by Sarabjit and Mr. Garg about the explainability, which we are working, quite a lot. So, uh, there's a common notion in last 3 to 5 years. We have seen that, if you're not doing AI, you are a dumb engineer or an organization. When I say organizations, there's a lot of VC focus. If you're doing any good product, why don't you add some AI stuff into it? So that is the kind of hype I'm talking about. And we'll see, why this is, why I call it a hype. And the second point which I'm going to make is that, AI definitely is the future. Now, these terms seem a bit contradictory, but, AI has reached, to the hype level only because of the development of many other fields. AI was there since donkey years, and it has got mainstream basically because of the pervasiveness of electronics. You have mobile devices in every hand. The machines are generating, which were earlier programmed to be utilitarian, are now generating a lot of data. So once you have data and the means to process data, you can do a lot of analysis on it. And by the way, analysis has also been, in the picture for a lot many years. Then a slightly, controversial statement, Dr. Garg spoke about it. You know, at a philosophical level, it gives you a guilt-free framework for the system to make decision right or wrong or partially correct. Now, this is where we see the boundary between the human and AI diminishing. Uh, Primarily, like I'll take an example. So, let's say you give an X-ray to a machine to interpret, and it gives some result, and doctor just signs it off and says, okay, as the machine said, it's 80% likely to be a particular problem. So from the responsibility on the head of the doctor has been now shifted to the machine or the algorithm. So this is something which is to me a bit scary. So earlier, let's say a weatherman makes a prediction, he would be held responsible if he makes a wrong mistake. But today, he can easily say that, okay, don't touch me. It's the algorithm which has done it, and it predicts at 90% accuracy. So my point is that human responsibility is being now shifted to machines. I'm talking about the responsibility part of it. So that has to, something which we have to keep in mind. Now, the rest of my lecture is about, demystifying few things. Most of you probably know it, and this is coming from my experience and having spent a lot of time in industry, especially the semiconductor industry, and I've seen work with a lot of startups in various fields. So it's coming from that perspective, and I'll make a few generalizations, but you have to take it with a pinch of salt, and we can agree or disagree or debate maybe at a later stage. So when a student comes out of or is in a second year, third year, what I like to emphasize here is that the classical career path still for an engineer is the core industry. By what I mean is, if a student is interested in automotive or industrial or utilities or avionics, those verticals are still relevant. So there is no need to fear or let me leave everything, and today AI is the big thing. I should focus over there. So all I'm trying to emphasize is that, you know, domain expertise will always be in fashion. Even if, you know, Tesla makes electric cars and EVs and so, but you still need mechanical engineers. You still need, you know, power electronics guys. So those core competencies will not go. Okay. So therefore, you know, bulk of the jobs will still be in the core vertical sectors. Just because, you know, AI is quite mainstream, they won't just vanish. They'll be benefited from it. So that is, you know, clear distinction, although, you know, the conference is about machine learning, but here I would like to, you know, rein the horses that, okay, you know, core engineering and domain expertise is essential, and AI runs on top of it. Therefore, you know, my advice to the students would be that, okay, you know, you focus on whatever field you want to pursue and keep your eyes and ears open for, you know, AI specific remedies specific to your sector. So what is happening is, like, you know, an electrical engineer who earlier used to make a simple electronic meter is now making a smart meter. With the advent of smart meter, you know, a lot of data is coming. So, you know, an engineer who is designing, an electrical engineer who is designing a smart meter should be capable of understanding that, you know, what is required by my AI model or what my AI colleagues are asking for, and therefore provision it in the devices. So I think core domain knowledge with eyes and ears open, you know, for AI and ML interventions. So the next option, which is, you know, a term which is quite interchangeably used with AI, ML, data scientist. So I would, you know, this is my definition of data scientist. In an organization, probably these are the guys who know how to dress the data to apply advanced models and simulate the desired outcomes. So this is, you know, considered a very demanding, you know, the data scientists are a lot of demand these days, primarily because they know, you know, there's tons of data available, how to assemble or how to make my tables and then, you know, run my algorithms. But the question is, you know, do we need an engineering degree to be a data scientist? The answer is, you know, not necessary. Because you know, essentially it is the person who is a student who is, you know, interested or very mathematically aligned or knows how to handle tons of data. I think these are the guys who will make it big in this field. And however, you know, engineers do have an edge because you know, we are taught so many topics like signal processing, electromagnetics, video, audio, you know, filters. Dr. Tha was speaking about. So that requires a lot of mathematics. So, you know, mathematics is friend of engineers. So I think, and they also get to know programming. So I think data science becomes a natural extension. But I want to, you know, make this clarity, because in the actual practice in the field, you'll see a lot of mathematicians and statisticians, you know, doing really well in this role of data scientist. And if I talk about you know, organizational hierarchy, so this is a very small team of you know, data science team is a very small team in the whole organization. And typically, you know, there'll be an expert and who will design the data, and then he'll have a team of people who will assist him in, you know, generating the data, cleaning the data, and, you know, running the models. So, you know, although data scientist seems to be a very go-to word, but you know, in terms of organization, typically there'll be only few experts. Okay, but having said that, you know, in the whole long career of in AI, I think one should definitely you know, understand what is data, how to process it. Now, the third important field is knowledge about frameworks. Now, this is somewhere where you will get maximum number of jobs. So I'll just take a quote from NVIDIA. There's a lot of heavy words here: deep learning frameworks, software building blocks for designing, blah blah blah. So I'll try to quickly dissect what they are saying, and probably that will make sense to a lot of students. So first is I'm breaking that sentence into deep learning framework offers building blocks for designing and training, validating deep neural networks through a high-level programming interface. So, in plain English, it means that a high-level programming framework is required to implement AI algorithms. So this is, no different from, learning Java in a slightly earlier era. So as Dr. Garg was also mentioning that, knowledge of Python or being able to apply certain models on certain data, I think that's a prerequisite. So a good programming is definitely a must to go forward in this area. Second is, widely used deep learning frameworks such as MXNet, PyTorch, TensorFlow, etc. So what it means is that, you can maximize your chances of getting jobs is by knowing or mastering one of these frameworks. And as I mentioned earlier, the programming skills are the must. So one should be very confident and really master these tools to be able to apply the algorithms. So that is where the bulk of the jobs will be. And the last thing which they mention is rely on GPU accelerated libraries such as CUDNN or NCCL or DALI. Now, this is something which is, something where engineers, especially computer science or electronics, should focus. This is the real game. Because what will happen is that, frameworks also, people will learn a lot of material available, and a lot of programming from MCA side are also graduating into that. So I think this is something, how to take advantage of the hardware which is below, because you should remember that GPUs are now also available in the embedded devices. So, a lot of computing is available on battery operated devices. So I think, this is the real skill. Now, this fourth thing is scaling on cloud and GPUs. Now, this is where the real dollars are. And, any company cares only about this thing. So you have a deep learning algorithm which is running on your set of data, but, eventually, let's say it matures and you have to now deploy it on the cloud, and you have to, or your server resources. Now, this costs real dollars. So which means that, you should, anybody who knows about GPU, who knows about framework, who knows about algorithms, who knows mathematics, how to, take advantage of these kind of architectures. I think those guys are very, very much in demand. And, this thing will come after probably a couple of years of experience, when you will know something about data science, your frameworks well, your GPUs, your architectures. Then the last thing which I want to point out is that, with the proliferation of IoT devices, most of, it's not practical to do all the computing on the cloud or servers. So a lot of computing has shifted from the clouds to the embedded devices. For example, when we are working in the area of smart metering, earlier, a lot of load analysis or, all those things were being done on the cloud. But nowadays, we are designing systems where we are calculating all the harmonics and trying to predict what kind of load is being applied. So what I'm trying to say is a lot of AI and ML has moved on the embedded devices. So in the coming days, I think this will be a very hot area because there's a motherhood statement that 50 billion devices will be IoT devices, and when we see, for example, we do a lot of AI related stuff also in our asset tracking devices, where we need to estimate the battery life and make sense of the data which this whole sensor is generating. So a lot of computing has shifted to the embedded devices. So I think this is something which should be kept in mind, that most of the algorithms or models which you are developing should be so lightweight, and so that they can be implemented on the edge. So finally, summarizing, AI skills would dovetail into existing engineering streams, whereas the programming part of the frameworks and data science is up for grabs by people from diverse backgrounds, not necessarily engineering. And but having said that, I think AI will be a lot pervasive in future. So I wish everybody all the best for this, and there's a lot to do in this area. Thank you.